where differences, racism and weakness end, discipline, purpose and strength begin. Choose wisely. We won't get a second chance. In this video report you will get some basic ideas on how to steal $40 trillion of taxpayer money, then leave the taxpayer with $20 trillion in national debt, and get away clean without the taxpayer being aware a crime was ever committed. It's easier than you think, when everyone's in on it, but you. As usual, none of the security watchdogs barked either. When your enemy's forces outnumber your forces 10 to 1, but your military budget outnumbers his budget 10 to 1, and your military budget was mostly borrowed from your enemy, then you have already lost, and surrender is your only option. Attack your enemy where he is unprepared, appear where he does not expect you. The Art of War Strategy Card Deck. The cards you play when it's not a game. U.S. military personnel and strength. The 2017 National Defense Authorization Act built up force structure. The bill increased the end strength of the active duty Army to 476,000. The Army currently stood at 475,000, but was scheduled to be reduced to 460,000 by the end of 2017. The Air Force got an active duty increase to 321,000, an increase of 4,000, and the Marine Corps was authorized to bump up to about 18,500, an increase of 3,000. The value of pay and benefits has eroded as annual raises have fallen below civilian wage growth for the past 5 years. Trump wanted another 60,000 soldiers in the ranks of the active duty Army, for a total of 540,000 soldiers. The Department of the Army will add 28,000 soldiers to its ranks by September 30, 2017. Officials announced the 16th of March 2017. The troop increase was directed by the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2017. Across the force, the active component end strength authorization increased by 16,000 to 476,000. The Army National Guard increased by 8,000 to 343,000, and the Army Reserve increased by 4,000 to 199,000. This 28,000 increase meant the total Army will number 1,018,000 soldiers. Trump vowed to build a 350-ship Navy, versus the current battle force of 272 ships and submarines. An unspecified number of additional sailors would man the 78 ships and submarines he intends to build. This plan would require the addition of 50,000 sailors, by one estimate. This buildup would move the service from 330,000 sailors today to more than 380,000. He wants up to 12,000 more Marines to serve in combat units. Trump proposed to buy at least another 100 combat aircraft for the Air Force, along with the personnel required for these units. The Air Force has declined from its post-9/11 peak of 376,616 airmen in fiscal 2004 to roughly 311,000 in fiscal 2015. John Venable, an Air Force veteran and a defense fellow at the Heritage Foundation, said he believes Trump could boost Air Force personnel by roughly 40,000 airmen in the next few years. Law authorizes the number of military members in every service and component. This number is known as end strength. Recruiting involves attracting and accessing both prior service members and those who are new to the military, referred to as non-prior service. In 2010, the Army and Marine Corps successfully achieved their Grow the Force active military goals of 547,400 and 202,100 enlisted, respectively, more than 2 years ahead of schedule. Trump's military will have more troops and more firepower if he can find more money. In this September 15, 2015, photo, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump speaks during a campaign event aboard the retired ship USS Iowa in Los Angeles. The Associated Press has learned that the Internal Revenue Service has revoked the nonprofit status of Veterans for a Strong America, the veterans organization that hosted Trump's foreign policy speech. Veterans for a Strong America is headed by Joel Arends, a veteran and conservative campaign operative. Arends told the AP he disagrees with the IRS's determination and is appealing. He would not provide a copy of any tax returns the group had filed. The IRS automatically revokes any group's nonprofit status if it fails to file returns for 3 consecutive years. President-elect Donald Trump wants a much bigger military. All he needs to do is find the money and political support to make it happen. Less than 2 weeks into the Republican businessman's transition from unlikely presidential candidate to unlikely commander-in-chief, many details of his plans for the Defense Department remain unsettled. His picks to lead the Pentagon, the individual services, and his national security staff are still unsettled. Retired Army Lieutenant General Mike Flynn was named his administration's national security advisor on Friday, and Trump has been reaching out to potential defense secretary candidates in recent days, including retired Marine Corps General James Mattis, who as the head of U.S. Central Command from 2010 to 2013 choreographed the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq under President Obama. President Trump tweeted, General James "Mad Dog" Mattis, who is being considered for Secretary of Defense, was very impressive yesterday. A true general's general. The common thread between Team Trump's transition discussions and the president-elect's campaign rhetoric is a belief that defense spending has dropped to dangerously low levels, and that the military needs to add lots of people, more than 160,000 by some estimates, along with investing heavily in new ships and aircraft. Trump wants an active-duty army with another 60,000 soldiers in the ranks, an unspecified number of additional sailors to man the 78 ships and submarines he intends to see built in coming years. He wants up to 12,000 more Marines to serve in infantry and tank battalions, and at least another 100 combat aircraft for the Air Force. If Trump's administration can accomplish even a portion of this, it could have sweeping effects on rank-and-file military personnel, touching everything from individual advancement opportunities to the number of U.S. troops stationed overseas and overall operational tempo. The scope of growth being suggested would require many more officers and non-commissioned officers, influencing, over the course of several years, how each service recruits, promotes and retains its workforce. It is unclear, though, whether Trump's plans include a boost for troops' pay and benefits, the value of which has eroded as annual raises have fallen below civilian wage growth for the past 5 years. This has become a source of frustration and anxiety among rank-and-file personnel, many of whom feel they've been asked to do more with less. There's a common theme between Donald Trump's transition talk and the president-elect's campaign rhetoric. It's a belief that the military must invest substantially in new equipment and in people. More than 160,000 by some estimates. 100 additional fighters for the Air Force. 78 more ships and submarines for the Navy. Up to 12,000 more Marines. And 60,000 soldiers. They are grand plans, but a big question remains. How will Trump pay for all of it? War is a racket. It always has been. It is possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It is the only one international in scope. It is the only one in which the profits are reckoned in dollars and the losses in lives. A racket is best described, I believe, as something that is not what it seems to the majority of the people. Only a small inside group knows what it is about. It is conducted for the benefit of the very few, at the expense of the very many. Out of war a few people make huge fortunes. Major General Smedley D. Butler. Be sure to watch parts 2 and 3 of this series. $40 trillion missing and war is a global racket. Donald Trump is only the latest president who has been put in place to sell the American people on the robbery which began 100 years ago with the creation of the Federal Reserve. A robbery that has presently racked up at least $40 trillion in stolen taxpayer dollars. President Obama alone hit the American taxpayer up for $10 trillion. How many more trillions can Donald grab from us for his superiors? They're all in on it. The US, China, Russia, North and South Korea, Iran, Iraq, Japan and others. Selling out their people, robbing them blind, and discarding the people to a landfill once they label them useless and undesirable.